are live. We are live. Thank you guys for joining me once again on TimberTalk, navigating the political force. I am your host, American Lumberjack. I am glad to have you here, and boy, do we have a show for you today. Actually, every time we do this, we have a good show for you because most of the stuff that we talk about is not talked about at all. But we're going to talk about it, and you'll be informed, and then you'll be able to make your own decisions based off of what you know that is true. As always, I appreciate every week you guys joining me and spending a little bit of time navigating this political forest with me. Let's open with prayer and get right to it. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for this awesome opportunity to be blessed by your word, God, to be blessed by your knowledge, to be blessed with your understanding, God. Thank you for opening our eyes so that we can see truth and not be blinded by the lie of the enemy. God, I pray that your word goes forward and truth is pushed into every home, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Let's get right to it. Our first story today for you guys is this one. Let's see, right here. Give me 1 second, and there we go. Muslim Brotherhood. So, if you haven't been paying attention, which most people don't, they only see what they want to see and hear what they want to hear. President Trump signed an executive order launching a process to determine whether specific Muslim Brotherhood chapters should be labeled. Now, got to be careful with labels. You know, when we label things, we tend to get out of hand with labeling. But I think this particular label is warranted. It has to be warranted because common sense says the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization. So this is to determine whether specific Muslim Brotherhood chapters should be labeled as foreign terrorist organizations, or FTOs for short, and specifically designated global terrorist. So that would be the SDG which is also one of the acronyms that the government loves to use. You know they love their acronyms, and so do I. The order requires state and treasury to submit reports within 30 days, following by a possible formal designation within 45 days. What this ultimately means is that chapters under review include scrutiny, and they will, if deemed what a terrorist is, they will be considered to be terrorist. So this includes countries like Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan. Now, I want you to pay very close attention to Jordan because a lot of people think Jordan is close to Israel. They must be friendly. No, not in the slightest. But they're not saying the entire brotherhood is terrorist, but I am. Me, this guy, I am. Nowhere these people go do they just go to be peaceful. Islam is not the religion of peace. So bravo to Trump doing this. I feel that personally this might be a power play for later on when these people start to act up, and you know they will. You know they will, just like they did in Germany, and this is why Germany tried to kick all of them out of their country. And now we see France doing the same thing. Why? Because these people don't come to be friendly. So to give you some context, the administration says that some chapters have supported violent acts, if you want to call them that. I call it terrorism because it is. And they've supported violent acts, aided organizations to around the world to commit other violent acts. And now, historically, the United States has never designated the Brotherhood as an FTO, which is absolutely positively crazy to me because, you know, the GWOT, Global War on Terror, George Bush should have done that, but he didn't. And we know that good Barry Obama wasn't going to do it because, well, he brought his buddies over, right? So despite decades of debate and proof, no one has ever done this, and Trump is actually taking his foot forward and doing this. So here's where it starts to matter ultimately, and this is what I believe should be the opinion of all Americans. Supporters are going to argue that the move protects U.S. interest. It does. It does. And pressures Islamist groups to be on their P's and Q's or get the heck out. There is no middle ground. There is no meeting of the minds. There's no shaking of the hands. There is no compromise when it comes to this group. There are some concerns with this particular executive order going forward. You have the oversight evidence standards and avoiding blanket labels, because we can't be discriminatory. That pesky 1964 and 68 Civil Rights Act, you can't be discriminatory. But when it comes to a group of individuals who chant on a regular basis, death to America, death to the infidel, we would be infidels because those that don't believe like they believe are infidels. You can't be too nice. You can't be. Now, the real world implications are as follows. Designations would empower the United States to freeze assets, blocking funding, and impose travel bans on targeted chapters. I say impose travel bans to the United States on all the countries that house these particular individuals. This could reshape the U.S. relationship with the Middle East governments, where the Brotherhood chapters functionally run the areas politically. But money talks and the other stuff walks, right? Because if you don't have money and trading, you can't do the things that you do, or at least not at the scale you do it at. Ultimately, there are some risks and problems that go along with this, and that being diplomatic tensions likely with the countries, like I mentioned before, that house the Brotherhood-aligned parties and hold political roles. But really and truly, what do those countries have that we have to have that we can't get anywhere else? Then you have the people that cry out, civil liberties, civil liberties. If you are civil with these people, they will take liberties with you. You have to be realistic and see it for what it is. No one would have even dreamed we'd be here today in the United States of America following 9/11. Not a single person. Yet here we are. Here we are. It's crazy. So clarify safeguards to prevent overreach. The government gaining any form of power is not necessarily a good thing, and historically has never really been a good thing. But when it comes to protecting the United States of America and those which reside legally and lawfully in the land, you can't be too careful. That is what it is looking at it with a microscope. If you want the 10,000 foot view, you see death and destruction everywhere. It is what it is. I don't make the rules. I just follow them. Our next story is mutiny made me do it. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard about Mr. Kelly, who is a, U.S. Navy personnel. I'll call him that because I don't really believe people like this need respect. But I don't know if you've heard, the Pentagon has confirmed that in their investigation of Senator Mark Kelly, so he made a lateral move from being a high-ranking military official to a high-ranking government official, saying his remarks in his video, which I do not have, I should have grabbed it. Forgive me for that. I should have grabbed it. His remarks in his video have undermined the good order, moral, and loyalty. So this is something that the military in all branches pushes for their military personnel to follow. Good order, moral, and loyalty. And this keeps the military ranks in file. So Kelly, a retired Navy captain, is still subject to the uniform code of the military. He how I say once a Marine, always a Marine? That saying goes across the board to all military branches, where once a soldier, always a soldier. Once a what do they call Navy people? I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. But once that, always that. So you have the Uniform Code of the Military, or the UCMJ, which covers all branches and can be legally recalled to active duty for potential disciplinary action, including a court martial. Now, I bet you're wondering what the man did. Well, he quite literally told people to defy the orders of their commander-in-chief. So in this particular video, Kelly was urging the service members to not follow illegal orders, which the Pentagon argues could be interpreted as encouraging defiance. It is. I don't like how we play this game of words, and you dance around certain words. We're going to call a spade a spade. It is what it is. This man has openly perpetuated in his position and status that he holds a marker of dissent. He's pushing for people to defy orders. So, according to NBC News, Kelly and a group of Democratic lawmakers, Democrats, for those that don't understand Democratic, but Democrats, lawmakers released the video in a wake of a heightened political tension, is what they wrote in their little article, over military authority and presidential directives. Basically, they're saying that everything that Trump is telling you to do is wrong and you should just say no. Well, that usually gets you thrown in the brig, NJP'd, or court-martialed. Usually. So while the 6 lawmakers appeared in the video, Kelly is the only one under investigation. I think all 6 of them should be removed from office. All 6 of them should be removed from office. Why? Well, because if what Trump was doing was wrong, impeach him. If the orders he were pushing down the pipeline through the Department of Defense, or Department of War now, by way of Pete Hegseth, your Secretary of War, if it were unlawful and illegal, impeach him. You're a senator. You are lawmakers. You have that authority. Write up the articles of impeachment and push for the removal of Donald J. Trump. But instead, you go the route of it's not even really mutiny, if you really honestly think about it. It really is and truly is like a coup. Coup d'etat. It's French for, mutiny. See what I did there? But I digress. It really and truly, these people are pushing for the overthrowing of our government, and they're doing so illegally. There are rules, regulations, and policies and procedures in place to do what they need to do. But instead of going the legal route, you're trying to get a lot of people in trouble. Because let's play the game. Follow me here. Let's say these people actually went through with it. And you had airmen, sailors, Marines, and soldiers in full-blown defiance. We're not going to do what you say anymore, Pete Hegseth or Donald J. Trump. You command us, but we're not doing it. Well, what then? Now you have a weak army, a weak Navy, a weak Marines. And you have weakness all around. And what is going to happen when your enemy sees this? Oh, they don't follow orders. And while your back's turned because you're fighting your own people, they slip in. They've already been doing it. So I believe that Kelly should be removed and court-martialed and face real stringent punishment, but also these other despicable creatures of the night. Their names are Elisa Slotkin, terrible last name, Slotkin, Elsa or Elisa Slotkin. You have Jason Crow, um, Chrissy Holohan. Their names are terrible. And I'm not great with pronouncing horrible names. They don't sound very American to me, but I digress. Chris Deluzzo and Maggie Goodlander, all of them with Kelly need to be removed. You're delivering you're delivering a unified front against your own government when you actually have an ability to do so legally and a process. Take him to Congress, impeach him, remove him. That's how you do it. You don't do it by telling people to defy. That's like, to give you guys some understanding, it would be like you having your child and someone coming up and telling your child, don't listen to your mom or dad. Go do what you want to do. Defy them. What would you say to that person saying this to your child? Remove Kelly from office and the other creatures of the night. Bring him back in. Court-martial him. Give him the most severe punishment possible. Set a standard. Once the standard is set, we don't have to worry about this anymore. People will go through the correct channels. You are not above the law. No one is. Point blank period. It's pretty simple. We got to keep it 100 one way or another, always. Our next story is, by the way, there's a lot of terrorism in today's show. But our next particular story, Terrorist of the Sun, or Cartel de la Sol, which is translated as Cartel of the Sun. Well, on November 24th, 2025, the U.S. Department of State formally designated Cartel de la Sol as a foreign terrorist organization. Bravo. Anyone that is doing harm to the United States and willfully doing so and not stopping should be designated as terrorist. That includes Israel. I said it. You heard me. But I digress. We're talking about Cartel de la Sol. U.S. authorities accuse the cartel of being run by Nicolas Maduro. Now, if you've been following my show for any amount of time, you would know that Trump has been having little tete-a-tetes and taps and fights with Maduro. Lots. I mean, he's sanctioned this man's whole family and done a whole bunch of other things to this man. And simply put, because they are quite literally sending drugs to the United States. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. How can they freely move, they being the cartel of all sorts and kinds, freely move within their own country without any repercussions and come to our country and bring drugs and face no ramifications when they go back to their country? This is why they keep getting blown up in the Caribbean and in the international waters, because we don't want that here. So the U.S. authorities accused the cartel of being run by Nicolas Maduro and high-ranking Venezuelan military and government officials. Now, we know that when the United States government does their due diligence, they actually do it. It's rare they do their due diligence unless they really are going after something that they want. But when they do it, they do it. Yes, I believe wholeheartedly that they've looked into this government. They probably even have spies within this government to find out what is really going on. The charges involved in this large-scale drug trafficking into the United States and Europe, collaborating with other already designated narcotics and narco-terrorist groups, and engaging in terroristic violence is all wrapped around Venezuela and Maduro. You can't really lead a country and say you know nothing about what's going on. Otherwise, are you running the country? It's kind of like the Mexican president, that imposter Jew herself, saying that she's got everything under control, while her own mayors in Mexico that speak out against her and want the United States to send their military to shut down the cartels in Mexico, they get killed. Crazy. So the name Cartel del Sol refers to the sun insignia worn by the Venezuelan generals. The cartel is described as not as a classic hierarchical cartel, but as a state-embedded network of corrupt officials, military officers, and traffickers. We know all about corruption here in the United States because the United States does it to themselves. So we know that there's the conspiracies of JFK and, Lyndon Baines Johnson, setting him up to have him taken out because of APAC because, the Kennedys spoke out against APAC, but I digress. But there's all these things you see, the corruption and the twisting of things. We see it here. So it's very easy to see it there. How can you run a country, as I stated before, and not know what's going on? If you are running a country and you don't know what's going on, you're not running the country. The country's running you, or in this case, the cartel is running you. So the designation isn't just symbolic. It expands the legal and military tools available to the U.S. authorities, asset freezes, sanctions, criminalization of support, and the broader basis of action. So we see that Trump has implemented some of these things already, where they have sanctioned the whole entire country, members of the high-ranking members in their government, so on and so forth, just to try to get a hold on them sending drugs here. And you can't say they're not sending drugs here because we keep blowing them up week in, week out, month in, month out. We watch them come from Venezuela, and we tell them, hey, stop, turn around, go back. They don't listen. They don't respond. Boom. Smoke on the water. Defense officials have said that this gives a whole bunch of new options to counter what the U.S. calls narco-terrorist. Listen, I don't want drugs here in the United States. And if countries want to send drugs because it makes some money to the United States, then they are no different than the whole country's terrorist. I mean, we know that pretty much all Islamic states say death to America, so they're terrorists. It'd be no different if America said death to Venezuela, death to Mexico, death to Canada. To them, we would be terrorists. So let's get real. We see it for what it is. Now, there are some impacts that actually unfold here. The U.S. citizens and businesses are now legally barred from providing any support to Cartel del Sol. That's going to hurt a little bit, some of these businesses. But why would you want to do business with people selling drugs? So Venezuela's government and its top officials, including Maduro, have been effectively blacklisted, which isolates them from diplomacy and financial compensation or help, which I'm here for. I am so America first. I don't care about the rest of the world because we suffer in the United States because of the actions of others that we didn't do anything. We didn't cause the war between Palestine and Israel. I wish I could say we didn't cause the war between Ukraine and Russia, but good old Binky Biden removing those sanctions that were put in place that were, by the way, approved with bipartisan support is what allowed Russia to do what they did. But let's not live in the past. Let's move forward. Labeling a network tied to a sitting government as a terrorist group raises major implications and questions about sovereignty, legitimacy, and whether the United States intends to treat Venezuela as a parish state, which ultimately means that we strangle them out until they fix their problems. I don't think we should be going to help people or fix people's problems, period. If they need help, then you shouldn't even be a country on your own merit, because a country should be able to stand on its own. Now, it's one thing if a bigger country hurts a smaller country. If you get the reference, you get the reference. And they do so unprovoked, that would be different, because we shouldn't allow bullies to be bullies. However, we also shouldn't be allowing drugs to funnel in from other countries to ours, and we also shouldn't allow countries to suck us dry while American people suffer. I really don't care about what someone else has to say in opposition to what I just said, because it's true. As long as we have kids on the street, kids being trafficked, homeless, people committing suicide, our mental health is abysmal in the United States. As long as we have those problems, I don't care about anybody else. Let's fix our problems, and then we can go help others. And one way we start doing that is by perpetuating clean nuclear energy. My goodness. Why we don't push nuclear energy is crazy to me. It's clean, it's renewable, it's pretty much easily controlled now. I mean, we've got a pretty good grasp on it. So why not push it out to fix things? You know, the Green New Deal, we can do that with a nuclear deal. It's clean. It's not harmful to, the environment for all those little health nuts that run around, say, protect the trees. It's clean, it's healthy, and it's renewable, and it doesn't cause you to have to go mine something from children in another nation that don't get paid really. You can call it slave labor. It doesn't require that for lithium-ion batteries or solar panels. It doesn't require that. We can do that right here, quick, fast, clean, and easy, and it will help. So, the U.S. Department of Energy, DOE for short, granted Constellation of $1 billion federal dollars by way of a loan, of course, to restart the stuttered 3 Mile Island plant, which is going to relaunch under the name Crane Clean Energy Center. So, once brought back online, the facility will generate about 835 megawatts of baseload nuclear power, which having that pumped into the grid is beautiful. It's quite literally beautiful, because that means it's no extra stress on the grid. They're not pulling from anywhere else to Canada, i.e. Canada, to power somewhere else. They can do it right here. And could you imagine if every state had one of these in a safe area that was easily contained, what they could do for each state, and it would pay for itself over time. Power and energy wouldn't be an issue because it would be clean and renewable, and it would lower, energy costs. But I digress. So the project is tied to a 20-year power purchase agreement with Microsoft aimed at supplying energy for its data centers. Now, the corporations are always going to get their little fingers wet before we, the people in, civilian land, can get our fingers wet. It's a little backwards, but this is a start. It's a start. And Trump is really big on AI. So I have a story about that later on. But he's really big on AI. So this actually is going to help facilitate AI infrastructure. Am I okay with that? Not really, but that's not what this is really about. This is more so about the fact that we have the opportunity to create green energy, clean energy that doesn't harm the atmosphere and nature and all these things like you think it would. And it's not having slave labor done, and it's actually going to be beneficial and renewable. You don't have to buy new solar panels every 25 years because you can do it right here safely underground and keep it moving. So Unit 1 of the 3 Mile Island was shut down in 2019 for economic, not safety reasons. Yeah, it was never fully decommissioned, however, so they're going to bring it back. So under the restart plan, the facility is expected to come back online around 2027. Or around 2028, depending on, the logistics and the red tape they got to cut through. And it's going to come back and need upgrades, and they're going to get the upgrades. So why haven't we been doing this all along? Why? So the Department of Energy says that the loon is a part of a broader regulatory push under the current administration and their energy policy to secure a firm, reliable, carbon-free, because, got to reduce that carbon footprint. That's the motto, even though carbon footprints haven't really affected the earth at all. But I digress. Look at China. Lots of carbon over there, but I digress. Carbon-free electricity, especially giving surging demand driven by AI data centers and electrification. If we were to actually let these corporations do what they need and then push this out to the public, could you imagine how much more satisfying it would be to know that California, no more brownouts or blackouts, no more turning off your AC during the summer, no more you're probably still going to have to turn off your water because y'all got a water crisis over there, but that's due to your great leadership in governor. But no more brownouts, no more not being able to run multiple appliances at one time. How wonderful would that be? Minnesota, New York, how wonderful would it be to be able to run your electric heaters and stoves and stuff and not have to pull power from Canada because you could do it right in your own state. It's awesome. It's beautiful. It's clean and it's renewable. So the restart will deliver hundreds of megawatts of stable carbon-free electricity to the grid, which is a big boost for reliability as demand climbs. So from my perspective, looking at this, I can see it as while these nuclear energy plants are providing power, they can start working on the current grid and upgrading it, which has not been upgraded for decades. Since the 50s, it's not really been touched because it works. But it would give you opportunity to provide power and upgrade at the same time and keep the cost very low. Why not do this to benefit the people? It wouldn't take a ton of people to manage this. It wouldn't. And it would increase power, increase energy, and it would decrease, all that carbon because, most of the electrical grid is ran by coal plants. So it's something to really think about. Look into it, think about it, and move forward. Now, there are some risks with this because of oversight and regulations and safety, but as we know, it was shut down in 2019, not due to safety issues, but economic issues, aka money, aka Green New Deal, because you can't have nuclear plants running and try to push for green, clean energy with the solar panels that cost billions of dollars and push out billions of poundage of carbon into the atmosphere and slave labor. Did you know they did the metrics for one battery for Tesla? From the point of mining to the point of being placed into a Tesla, they say it's the equivalent to that Tesla driving 40,000 miles on petrol. Strange, very strange. So you could probably clean up a lot by just pushing for more nuclear energy, which we should. It has a lot of long-term implications that are beneficial to the United States and potentially the world, because we want clean energy for everybody, right? At least that's what you would think. So our next story here is semi-related because MAGA meets AI. On November 24, 2025, Donald Trump signed an executive order establishing the Genesis Mission, which is a nationwide initiative to apply artificial intelligence to scientific discovery and national challenges. Scientific discovery and national challenges. I personally think this is cool, I guess. But I have some thoughts of my own. AI is only going to do with what we give it. So if we're not giving it good information, it's not going to give good results. Although it might be able to pull those results a lot faster. But take the time, go to your chat apps and other AI apps and ask it to solve a 3-body problem and see what it does. However, towards this particular story here, the plan directs the U.S. Department of Energy, once again, to build an integrated AI platform that draws on decades of federal scientific data, national labs, and supercomputers, private sector innovation, and academic partnerships, basically pulling from all the information that we have ever culminated in the United States. I hear one big massive data leak coming from this, but pull it all together and make this thing help us by quantifying, equations and putting things out there like they should be, and helping us get to where we need to be so we don't repeat the problems that we have had before in the past. So the mission aims to harness AI to train scientific foundation models for creating an AI-powered agent to test new hypotheses, automate research, workflows, and significantly accelerate breakthroughs in the fields like energy, biotechnology, quantum science, and semiconductors. This, again, leans back to the other story with them creating the nuclear plants and putting them forward to actually power AI centers. Hey, if it don't cost me more money as a taxpayer, then I'm happy for it. I am happy for it. I think it's a beautiful thing to do. So officials are framing this with the picture of, hey, what are you doing? Why are you pushing for this? Because, government officials are always going to question things that they don't understand instead of researching it and find out what it is. But the administration likens this endeavor, from their perspective, to past national scales of science mobilization, like the Manhattan Project or the Apollo program, signaling that the urgency for ambition and centrality of the mission is paramount, because we need to make another giant leap in some way, shape, or form, because we haven't done really anything since the Apollo project or the Manhattan project. We haven't really made an advancement in the United States since then. And if you know anything about stagnant things, they tend to bring disease and things start to fall apart. Stagnant water is where mosquitoes like to spawn their babies. And we know that mosquitoes are the number one carriers of all disease on the planet. So if we don't want to fall into a disease decrepit state, we need to push for advancements in the United States. And Trump is trying his best to do this in any way, shape, or form he can, even at the behest of being pushed back on by others that want to really just control it. See, Trump is not saying, let's do this and give it all to the government and keep it just for the government. Trump is saying, hey, this is going to benefit the people. This is going to benefit America as a whole. And the officials that are pushing and bucking against him are like, no, don't do that. Don't do that, because they want to have a stranglehold on it so they can make a little dollar and keep the people down instead of bringing the people up. Donald J. Trump wants to bring the people up, and I'm here for that. This could dramatically speed up scientific discovery, like maybe the cure for cancer that they already have, but they haven't released because Big Pharma is really the ones that are in the control. That's a little bit of conspiracy for you, but it's true. It shortens timelines for breakthroughs in medicine, clean energy, materials, quantum computing. It just makes advancements all the way around. And if America is to stay number one, we need to make an advancement in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, we're going to be the turkey on the dinner table of our enemy. How's that for a Thanksgiving quip? But on to our next story. Our next story is still AI-centered. Parents, be careful. Pay attention. Watch what you're doing. Watch what you're buying your kids. Watch what you're letting your kids play with and all this stuff. That's my warning to you, parents. Make sure you're paying attention. So a toy company called Folo Toy released an AI-enabled teddy bear named Kuma. Kind of sounds Muslim to me. Watch yourself, fellow. Watch yourself. Marketed as a friendly conversational companion for kids and families. Whatever happened to the days of having an imaginary friend? Why are we not talking to imaginary friends? Why are we not pushing our kids to broaden their imagination? Because where a broad imagination is, you have creativity, and the children flourish and they create things, and advancement happens. We just talked about advancing the United States. Advancing the imagination is how you advance it fast. But instead, we are perpetuating companion toys for children. Now, we're going to get into why this is not a good thing. Independent testing of this particular toy by researchers with the US PIRG, which is it is an educational group, discovered that Kuma didn't just chat innocently. The bear reportedly offered graphic sexual content, including explicit sexual and BDSM style roleplay involving children. Not just directed to the children, but it involved this depiction it made with children. It even gave instructions and suggestions about where to find dangerous objects like knives and pills and matches in your home. Wait a minute. What? You got little Teddy Two-Time back over here whispering sweet nothings in your child's ear while they're asleep, telling them to burn the house down? Yeah. That's what was going on. So after the report came out, Fellow Toy suspended sales of Kuma and pulled the AI toy line from the shelves. And they labeled it a safety audit. That as the reason why they did it. No, you did it because you're out here telling kids to do naughty adult style things. That's why you did it. And could you imagine teddy bears telling you to stab somebody? It's already bad enough that people are taking their lives because AI told them to through their reasoning systems, saying, hey, if you're this depressed, take your life. Now you got toys out here telling kids how to tie someone up and do sexual favors to them, or maybe even tie them up and take the matches and the knives and do things to people. Maybe not kill them, but, BDSM style things. This is crazy to me. So it accesses the AI platform from OpenAI, which is the same platform for ChatGPT. And they said, wait a minute, you're using our platform to do this? So they revoked Follow Toys access, citing the policy violations. Because you violated our policy, you can't use our platform. AI toys like Kumo are sold with promises of interactive learning, which sounds like a good thing, and companionship and smart conversation to help develop the child's mind. And supporters of AI say AI can modernize play and education. The road to hell. Can anyone finish that quote for me? It's okay, I'll finish it myself. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And there's no good intentions in teaching a child how to role play, be a voyeur, be a submissive, be a dominant, be a masochist. There's no education in that. That's only depravity. And it only serves to bring the children lower than where they are now. The Kuma case shows how fragile and unreliable AI guardrails are, and more scrutiny should be placed on that. Why are we creating AI models to go in toys that have the ability to access things that are beyond a child's imagination? You're over here teaching the kids arithmetic, and Teddy Two-Time over here is teaching them how to get in some Kama Sutra sex positions. This is not a good thing. The whole company needs to be shut down and investigated. And pending investigations, put them all in prison. Because it sounds like Follow Toys is full of a bunch of pedophiles. Because you can't tell me you didn't test this model before putting it out on the market. You can't tell me you didn't do that. You knew. And we know that pedophilic behavior is on the rise in the United States and in the world. So you knew. And the name Kuma really does sound Muslim. And we know that they love their child brides. By the way, it's for as long as I can or until things change. I'm not taking my foot off the gas on calling, the Muslims out, because we see you. We see you. Religion of peace. We see you. But I digress. Moving on. Our next story, I lied. We're not moving on. Is about, Islam. And what is the religion of Muslims? Islam. We have kidnapping crisis. Now, the purpose of this, I do love to keep all of my stories American-centered. But this show does also include my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So if it's about Christ, then I'm going to call it. And everybody knows how I feel about Catholics. You know how I feel about Catholics. But if you're proclaiming the name of Jesus and people are attacking you for it, whether you are a Catholic or not, we need to speak about it. On November 21st, 2025, and a group of armed gunmen rolled into St. Mary's Catholic School in Papari, which is an area in Niger State of Nigeria. And they abducted 303 students, 12 teachers. And the age group of these particular people range from 10 to 18 within the children, and of course adults as the teachers were, or educators were. They rolled in with their guns and just took them. Now, the early reports say about 50 children escaped, because it is kind of hard, if you're going to do some evil, to contain 300 children, because, you don't have enough guns and enough bullets to shoot all of them, and, you'll miss. But at least 50 children escaped and have been reunited with their families. But roughly 253 students are still missing. Now, if you know anything about Nigeria and what has been happening there over the past years, there has been genocide of Christians and anyone professing and proclaiming the name of Christ. There have been burning of churches, burning of schools, and I could only imagine what these Islamic terrorists in these countries are doing to these children. I can only imagine what they're doing. Ultimately, we see them slaughtering Christians left and right, up one side and down the other. Now we see them taking children. Now, are these children going to be taken for hostage situations or other nefarious behaviors? This comes days after an attack elsewhere in Nigeria, where a gunman seized 25 schoolgirls from a boarding school in Kebbi State. Now, the region where this attack occurred has long struggled with bandits, armed assailants, gangs, Islamic terrorists, and it's due to the area's weak government control. And that's the narrative of the media. I say it's due to the fact that it's hard to control a bunch of people with guns who tell you to comply or die, to accept their way of belief or don't, and you die. You're an infidel, as it were. And they've been holding these kids for ransom in these other situations, and doing other things to these kids in other situations like trafficking. Experts and human rights monitors caution that the recent kidnappings reflect a broader collapse of security in parts of Nigeria's schools, churches, and communities, and showing the increasing vulnerabilities in these areas. But if that's the case, why is it just Christians or people that say they're Christians? Because, again, you know how I feel about Catholics. But why is it people that profess the name of Christ? It's something to think about. It's something to chew on. Because really and truly, if you look at it this way, what's to stop this behavior from happening in America? America has been without any real problems, except for our own. There's been no persecution in America because we're too strong. But we're allowing these people into our country. We're allowing these people who believe like this into our government. And when asked to denounce the behaviors of said terrorist, some of these would-be leaders and lawmakers refuse to denounce or renounce these people. So that goes to show you that trouble is on the horizon and that this behavior could be here in America sooner than you think. Already in Dearborn, Michigan, you had these Muslims on the hunt for a Christian man talking bad about the Quran. And he wasn't actually using explicitives or anything. He was just saying that it was not the true word of God, that the Bible was, and yeah, they've been on the hunt for him. We can't allow our system to fall to their system or allow our system to capitulate with their system. Otherwise, we'll lose our country. Our last story today on some brighter news, not about terrorists, anti-abortion victory. Anyone that knows me particularly knows that I am not pro-life because I'm so down for the death penalty. If you commit a crime worthy of the death penalty, you should face the death penalty. But I am very much anti-abortion, and today I'm presenting to you the story of an anti-abortion victory. Now, on November 21st, 2025, the North Dakota Supreme Court reversed a previous ruling that had struck down the state's abortion ban, allowing the ban to come back into force. Now, under the revived ban, performing an abortion is a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison or $10,000 fine. Patients are not criminalized. The law targets the medical providers. Yes, we need to target the medical providers and stop blaming the people that are doing the thing, because they can't do the thing if you're not providing the access to that thing. So the exceptions remain extremely limited, because the other side's going to be like, hey, this is a ban. It's a total ban. It's a complete ban. No, you still have your exceptions. You still have your exceptions of up to 6 weeks for rape, incest, and it's there. We all know that ectopic pregnancies are not abortions. They are non-viable pregnancies, which thusly are life-threatening, because if you have an ectopic pregnancy or a tubal pregnancy rather, that is going to threaten your life where neither the mother or the baby survives. So that is a life-saving measure. If the mother's life is at risk, you're covered. That's your ectopic. If you're rape, incest, that's covered within 6 weeks of the pregnancy. The court's ruling came despite a 3-2 majority finding the law unconstitutionally vague. But under the North Dakota law, a supermajority of justices is required to strike down a legislation. That bar was not met, so the law stands. This is a huge win for life. It is a huge win for birth. It is a huge win for accountability. If you're going to lay down and do the deed, you need to stand up and take care of your business. The prior lower court ruling in 2024 to nullify the ban has been therefore reversed, and with it, the temporary window of abortion access was closed. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. I said I was off the Muslims, but I'm going to hit it one more time for the one time before I end the show. They're perpetuating the fact that Americans are aborting their children and have low birth rates while they are raising their children and increasing their birth rates. You need 2.1 to sustain a society, whether it's neither growing nor decreasing. However, in America, ours sit at 1.67. So we've been on a decline for a very long time. Well, Lumberjack, how is our population increasing? Because we keep letting people in our nation. And the people that we let in our nation aren't aborting their babies because they have conservative values, whereas we don't. This is a win, and I hope it rolls out in at least 46 states in America, because we know there's some strong blue states. But bravo accountability. North Dakota may have started a snowball that will turn into an avalanche for life. And I am here for it in every way, shape, and form. Guys, as always, thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being with me today on this Conqueror's Day. Thank you for giving me your time. And I hope that you're able to really look back at what we've covered today. We've covered some AI. We've covered some nuclear energy. We've covered some terrorists. We've covered some other nations being deemed as terrorists and their government being deemed as terrorists. We've covered a lot of things. Please, if you need a recap, rewatch the show. And maybe one day I'll get in the mood to give you a full recap before I end the show. But I am thankful for you guys. I'm also thankful for the Lord and the word that he has given today, which comes from Nahum 1:7. And it says, "The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knows them that trust in him." So when you have trouble, run into the Lord, for he is a strong tower. And under the shadow of the Almighty, there is safety. I appreciate you guys so much. And make sure you're not one of the ones who can't see the forest for the trees. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.